People pay good money to see this movie. When they go out to a theater, they want cold sodas, hot popcorn, and no monsters in the projection booth.
Everyone pretend podcasting isn't boring.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
Hey folks, it is that time of the year again. It is time for me to speak with Peter Tatara and Alexander Fee from the Japan Cuts Film Festival. This year the festival is running from July 10th through the 21st. It's got an amazing lineup, amazing guests, so many good things about it. I expressed during the interview how much I wish I was out there for it. Alas, I am not, but if you are in the New York area, I would highly recommend that you go check it out. We've got a terrific selection of old and new, including some classic screenings that I really honed in on with Peter and Alexander. Thank you to them for their time, and especially thank you to you for listening. I hope you enjoy this interview. Peter and Alexander, it is so great having you back on the show to talk about Japan Cuts 2024. So I'm so curious, what are the things that have you the most excited about this festival? Because we've talked several years. I wish I could get out there for this one of these days because it's always such a great lineup.
Well, thank you. No, we're thrilled. This is the 17th year of Japan Cuts. We're presenting 32 screenings this year, including a number of international premieres, North American premieres. The DNA of the festival really is a spotlight on the past 12 months of Japanese cinema. And that ranges from big blockbusters to serious dramas to indie works to experimental to anime, all this stuff. So it's a thrilling festival. I think this year especially is an embarrassment of riches. So on one hand, I think it's hard to pick our one or two favorites, but also at the same time, I know there are a few just singular unicorn-like screenings we're presenting this year. So, no, Alexander, you want to just dive right into August in the Water?
We're quite proud of this lineup this year, and I'm obviously particularly quite invested in the classic slate, which I curated. And August in the Water is one of the kind of white whales of when we talk about films that we've always wanted to screen here at Japan Society. And that was a film that has been in a pretty notoriously difficult situation and still continues to be in that. But we're doing a very, very one-of-a-kind screening where we're screening a 35 millimeter imported print with a live title in it, and director Ishii will be there in person for a Q&A afterwards. And it was, we knew it was popular, but it was a surprise to us that it was the first screening to sell out. It sold out before the new Kitano, before the new Shinya Tsukamoto. So I think what's neat here in New York is there's such a kind of really great audience for repertory curation, even within the context of a contemporary Japanese film festival.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was so happy when I saw that and The Mermaid on the schedule, and just, man, to be able to go to see those on the big screen must be such a treat.
Yeah, and I've never seen them on the big screen either, so I'm going to be sitting in the audience with it. But yeah, that's part of it. It's like, we put so much work into it, and with the classic especially, I had felt, it wasn't necessarily I was expecting to go into a very 1980s, 90s independent cinema kind of theme around it, which they're also all somewhat water themed and summary in a sense. It was all unintentional, but it just, the kind of everything kind of went into place when we were putting together the program. And yeah, Mermaid Legend is another film that has been notoriously difficult to see, and to my knowledge, this is the second festival screening of the film outside of Japan, and I'm not sure how many times it's actually screened outside here in the US. It usually with these types of films, if they've screened in the US, it probably was at Japan Society 20-30 years ago, but I'm pretty sure Mermaid Legend didn't screen. And it's I think it's one of those films that has it is a canonical work when you look at the 1980s in Japanese film. And it's also, if people like Lady Snowblood, it has genre elements within it, but it kind of transcends that. It's a very atmospheric and really just a wonderful kind of fascinating kind of encapsulation of like grief and rage in some sense. And I think I'm really excited to see it on the big screen.
Well, you mentioned that Ishii is going to be there for the Q&A for these, and who else is coming to the festival? Because it looks like you have an amazing lineup.
Just like the screenings themselves, I think the lineup of talent is, again, it's preposterous. We're deeply amazed and excited by everyone coming out. Every year we do a Cut Above Award, which is our biggest award, and an award to celebrate both an individual performance or work, but also just overall career and just achievement in film. This year, we're presenting it to the actor Mirai Moriyama. Absolutely amazing multi-hyphenate actor, dancer, creator. He's getting the award for Shadow of Fire that we're presenting as our centerpiece film, with director Shinya Tsukamoto also in person for that screening. So that was one of our quick sellouts. We're thrilled to have Moriyama and Tsukamoto here for that. It's a bit of a Moriyama year, as he's also appearing in another big film we're doing. He's also one of the leads in Great Absence, which is another big tentpole title. We're presenting Great Absence with Tatsuya Fuji, Japanese acting royalty with a 60-year career. So Tatsuya Fuji will be here to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award after the Great Absence screening, together with director Kei Chika-ura, who is, I think, one of the most buzzed about younger directors, even though he's not done too many films yet. I think his trajectory is very, 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 very high. So we're excited to see what more Chika-ura-san does. But those are just a few of the amazing names. Masanori Tominaga is the director of our opening night film Between the White Key and the Black Key. Tetsuya Chihara, amazing director, younger director for Ice Cream Fever. The list goes on and on. I think one of the other big names that we're very excited about is Tomoko Tabata. I don't know if Alexander, you want to talk about Moving, because I know that's been another passion project.
Yeah, no, it seems like we're just going to hit all of the classics, but it's obviously, on our end, we've been kind of championing Shinji Somai since last year. Won't show. I mean, I guess you won't be able to hear it, but I have a Typhoon Club poster right behind me. So we've evidently been very invested in kind of helping raise his profile, especially in the West. So our big retrospective last year didn't include Moving, which is, in my perspective, probably his best film, or the one Somai film I would show someone who's never seen a film by this director. It was, partly because this film was being restored last year that we weren't able to include it within our retrospective. So it felt like it was important to do something big around this new restoration, which is going to get a theatrical run right after our screening. So we managed to get the lead actress, Tomoko Tabata, to come. I don't think she's ever done like a in-person kind of appearance outside of Japan around this film. And her performance within it is kind of like one of the great kind of child performances ever in film history. And the film itself is one of the great Japanese films ever made. So it kind of feels like the missing piece in our kind of contribution to making Shinji Somai a better known filmmaker. And it's a really nice way to end it on our end. But yeah, we're kind of ecstatic to do this screening, I think, with Tabata.
Well, you mentioned big names that are going to be at the festival, and you've got one of the biggest names of all over your shoulder here with the 70th birthday of Godzilla happening this year. I'm so curious about this new version of Shin Godzilla.
This is a black and white version of Ono's Shin Godzilla, and it came out, we were actually in Tokyo. This movie showed in Tokyo for like 2 nights last year, timed around the Tokyo International Film Festival. And Alexander and I were both in Tokyo while this was screening. We had no clue this movie existed at that time, but we were in a meeting the day after the screening about something completely separate. But the folks we were meeting with, all they did was rave about this nonstop. So like we've been fortunate to do a lot with Toho over the past year. We've done preview events for Godzilla -1, some other cool stuff. So thrilled now to present the international premiere. This is the first time Shin Godzilla Orthochromatic is showing outside Japan. It is a complete black and white reworking of Shin Godzilla shot by shot with this orthochromatic exposure that's really focused on very stark contrasts, very pronounced blacks. It takes Shin Godzilla, which is, I think, one of the most amazing Godzilla films ever made, and just transforms it into something else. But no, Shin Godzilla may be Alexander's favorite Godzilla film ever, so don't know if you want to speak more about the significance of this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think any chance to screen Shin Godzilla is a great opportunity. And it's funny, I think, especially now with like what we saw with Godzilla -1, which became kind of a sleeper hit. And then they made -1 color. And a lot of people were kind of saying, oh, is this just something they made after that? But in fact, Godzilla Orthochromatic was released in advance of -1 as a kind of celebration of Godzilla before they were headed into this release of the new Toho -1. And so in many ways, -1 color is probably indebted to the fact that Anno wanted to kind of make a black and white version of, in my opinion, one of the best Godzilla films ever made. The way it was very much reflecting the times and the bureaucracy of the Japanese government and all of these elements. And it just felt like it made something new with that Godzilla formula. It also felt very much like an Evangelion type film, which makes a lot of sense coming from Anno. And it felt like it incorporated a lot of his reflections on, dealing with these type of, kind of elemental forces. Any chance you get to see this on the big screen, this is a treat. And I've only seen it, digitally on my computer. So I'm really excited as well to see Shin Godzilla here at Japan Society.
Talking about brass tacks a little bit, I know the festival runs from July 10th through the 21st. Do you guys show multiple things a night, or is it a one film a night festival?
With 32 screenings this year, most nights are definitely more than one film. I think our busiest days, we're doing 5 films in a single day. So weekdays are typically starting around 6:30 with 1 or 2 events depending on the runtime. And then weekends are back to back to back to back to back.
Tell me a little bit about some of the documentaries that you have playing this year. I'm very curious about Shunga, the Lost Japanese Erotica.
It's interesting to start with that one. We saw this going way back to Tokyo International Film Festival. I think this was also playing timed with a Shunga documentary or a Shunga exhibition that was going on that same time. But this is a really unique and really well-made documentary. Shunga, if you're not familiar, are erotic, explicit Japanese woodblock prints. And I think there's a very easy documentary made there about just the taboo nature, the titillation of it. But this is a gorgeously shot piece of art about this whole genre of art that has lasted centuries, and talking about its significance during the age of its creation, how it has evolved over time, contemporary artisans who are preserving these techniques, contemporary aficionados of it. It's a really interesting story that is about the human element of all this, and very much rendered, lovingly, beautifully. It's stunningly shot. It also, continuing the Mirai Moriyama theme, he's also in this as well. He narrates some of the shunga that are shown in the piece, but we're thrilled to present this. This is the first time it's being shown in North America. And just a lush and lavish documentary about a very niche piece of Japanese art.
A very familiar name is in your Next Generation jury this year. We've spoken with Edo Choi many times on here, so I'm so excited to see that crossover.
Yeah, we've got a very deep relationship with Edo and with Momi. Don't know, Alexander, you want to talk about even what we had just accomplished together?
Yeah, so the Shimizu retrospective was something Edo and I have been kind of mulling over for a couple of years. But Edo, I think I've probably established this in a previous episode, but I went to University of Chicago, and Edo also learned how to program there too. So we're both like Doc Films alum, which is the student-run film society there, but 9 years apart. And so I think, when Edo and I both, when I got this position at Japan Society, there was always talk about, oh, we should work together, we should do something. And that's how the Shimizu program came to be that we did back in May, which was 27 films, almost all of them imported on 35 millimeter, a lot of them soft titled, and we made commissioned subtitles for 5 films and such. So it's like a very unheard of scale in terms of what the program was. So we're quite ambitious, and we're hoping to continue this type of partnership. But yeah, Edo and I were friends, and it just seemed natural to invite him onto the jury, because why not?
When it comes to getting those new subtitles for your prints, and it sounds like you are doing kind of the same thing for August in the Water, that's live subtitling?
Yeah, I can totally explain it. So the fact remains that, and this happens, actually we do it quite often, and it's kind of a rare occurrence, I would say, outside of a place like New York. I remember when I was in Chicago, I might have done it once or twice, but here at Japan Society, we do it several times a year, it feels, where the films are only available on 35 millimeter prints, which honestly for us is always a treat. I think we value that format above all else. When we want to present a film, it's kind of definitive, the true kind of way to see a film be screened, in a sense. And there's just, it's just the way it looks, the warmth of the film, and the colors and the contrast. It's very different than when you see something digitally. But as with the case of August in the Water, it's only available on a 35 millimeter print, which the one we're going to screen is actually only maybe 5 or 6 years old. They struck it, I think, back in 2018 or 2019. So it's a relatively new print. It should look stunning. It just arrived in the office like yesterday, so I haven't inspected it. But yeah, a lot of the times with Japanese films, we come across the issue where the prints themselves don't have subtitles. So one of the missions that we do, or things that we think are quite important to do, is give people accessibility to these films despite that limitation. So we'll be running our 35mm projectors with the film, and then we'll have a projector to the side, a digital projector, where we'll be projecting the subtitles, and the subtitles will be manually advanced as, we'll have a Japanese speaker hearing and watching the film, and they'll advance it as they see the hear the dialogue advance, in a sense. So it's very much kind of a big technical challenge, but at this point, we're quite confident with it. We do it quite often, and I think people really value the effort that we put into making a screening like that happen.
That must be so much pressure on that poor person advancing those subtitles. I mean, that's got to be rough, because you have the entire audience waiting on you.
You have to do some prep work for it. And I think once you get the hang of it, you understand it. But also, there's always difficulties too with the structure of the Japanese language, where things can be kind of reversed in a sense. So when you hear something, you kind of have to anticipate it. But we've worked with our self-titler for quite a while now, and she's quite comfortable with this. And I think you get really nervous about it when you've never done it before. But once you start kind of working into it, you kind of get a hang of it and you get the rhythm of it. So we're not too worried. And I think, it'll be, a very, very special screening in that sense. I don't think it'll screen again on 35 millimeter, at least here in the States. So we'll see. Hopefully down the line, there could be a restoration in some sense.
And before we started recording, Peter, I was remarking on your office furniture and just all of the boxes of Pocky that you have there. What are the plans for those? Are you just going to take them home over the 4th?
I'm going to eat them all over the 4th of July. Now our friends at Pocky have given us a massive donation, several thousand boxes of Pocky that will be distributed to audience members throughout Japan Cuts. So come for the movies, stay for these sweet Japanese treats. And I can't wait to get them out of my office so I have space here again.
Peter, I see a problem this year with this festival. What is the 17th year you said that you're doing this? You've raised the bar so high. How are you going to top it next year?
Let us get through this year first. It's a very wonderful, interesting question. I think this year, the wealth of amazing films from tremendous filmmakers, it's a pretty singular year. So I think we don't know what the films next year will look like. So don't know if there will be as many major directors with new works. But like, I don't, for us, it's both showing big films as well as showing quiet films. I think to raise the bar next year, in my mind, it's more about the talent we bring out. It's the directors, the actors or actresses that come here. And those are conversations that can take 12 months, if not longer. So that's, I think, what I would love to do more of. You look at just the expanse of how many special guests we're bringing this year versus a year ago, pretty astronomical. So the hope is to welcome more talent next year, bigger names, more significant names. But yeah, that's the next year of conversations to make that happen.
I'm sure that will probably start, July 22nd?
You are correct.
Well, Alexander and Peter, thank you so much for your time. I always appreciate talking with you. And I, again, wish I was out in New York City to experience Japan Cuts 2024.
No, you're so welcome. Like we're thrilled to present this. It's one of the high points of our year. I think like there are so many films that we've not even touched upon. I think like most of our favorites yet. So encourage anyone to come out, like come for the big films, but also, take a look at the schedule and see what else is on there. And like we didn't even talk about the new Shunji Iwai. We didn't really mention all of the other amazing stuff the show Miyake we're showing. So there's so much stuff coming over the next 2 weeks. We couldn't be more proud.
I will encourage people to go to japansociety.org to check out the schedule, to buy their passes, and just to enjoy themselves and to, come on out for that Pocky.
Awesome. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.